Is there anything good you're listening to at the moment that encapsulates that kind of idea of trying to make the world a little bit better of a place than it once was?
I put on The Grateful Dead.
Oh yeah, you were saying a couple of weeks ago that at the moment that's something that you're really getting into more and more as a Grateful Dead. You were telling me that if there's any live band that anybody should listen to, it's definitely them.
Oh my God, we have their music superbly recorded because in their family they were careful to have the architects of a great sound system that they carried in 70 trucks in this holster, and engineers, so that I might be standing somewhere listening to this and look over my shoulder. What's that drum over my shoulder? You really think there's in the room someone just did a snare, and this viral little snail, twisting into your ear. And the concerts are usually at least 3 hours long.
Blimey, how do you have the stamina to play a gig for that long? I get tired after half an hour.
Oh, okay, there you go. That's one thing they are, is an inspiration and an encouragement. They're such a band, and they give to each other and take from each other, and they almost suffer with each other when someone tries something, and it takes about 4 seconds for them to know this moving the wrong way. No two shows are ever the same. So they have a litany of songs that they're famous for, that they do. And you go to Amsterdam, Seattle, Singapore, Mexico City, Rotterdam, London, Chicago, just from every day from 1960 late something, not that late, through the 70s, 80s, and into the early mid-90s. Every show is magnificently, technically, even if you like the music, you just go, oh, wow. Uncle John and whose band it is, which is Jerry Garcia. As great a musician, I think, as I will ever have in my lifetime, simultaneously. That's a stupid thing to say. For me, I can't imagine. This is like being alive when Bach was alive. There must have been some people who said, no one's ever going to beat this. In 1702, it's kind of hard to know that what anyone else can have. Anyhow, we have that. You who have been among bands, me, who have been in bands, are in bands, you, people who work together, who are a sports team. I mean, it's just,
There's certainly a camaraderie, isn't there? I mean, that's certainly what I find with music, is that it transcends so much in that respect, because one minute, you're two different people with maybe different opinions or different walks of life, and then as soon as the music starts, whether it's live or, as you say, whether you're listening to something that was recorded, in my case, before I was even born, and it can transport you into this sort of pocket of reality that you can get that sense of shared experience, and it does transcend, at least to me, it transcends a level of consciousness that I find it very difficult to find that same experience anywhere other than music. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
Yes, and think of music made by essentially the same musicians from 1965 to 1995, and never sounding old-fashioned bird. It's like it's Mozart old-fashioned, but that's 300 is yours. Yeah, of course it will. But this doesn't. This haven't gotten there yet. Musicians haven't. And there are songs and other people's songs, and they do Marty Robbins' El Paso, which lives in my head, and who'd have thought it? And they rock, they just do the Johnny Be Good. Doesn't it make you happy? Didn't it exist before you were born?
Yeah, well, certainly, in fact, Johnny Be Good was one of those tunes that, for me, when I was becoming a musician, stood out as a tune that, as I say, it kind of transcended that. It didn't matter that it was written so long ago in inverted commas, and it didn't matter that I'd never meet the musicians who were playing the recording I was hearing, but it, for some reason, it has that spark of life in it that captured my imagination as a kid. And it still does, it's one of those tunes that it almost doesn't matter who's playing it, they're channeling some sort of alter level of consciousness that...
They rock. I mean, that's what anyhow, that's what gets me through. And I prefer not, I know it may be important to you, but not to be gossipy. Because, I mean, everybody wants to know how Lou Reed met Iggy Pop or David Bowie, those three, and there's so much. It was imagine being a folk singer or solo singer composer in New York in the 60s when Dylan was being created, There's so many wonderful ones that you barely heard them, especially on radio,
Yeah.
So how do things propagate over time and stay thrilling, wonderful, and beautiful and smart?
I suppose the material speaks for itself, doesn't it? So if it does have that level of sincerity and introspective quality to it, that does transcend time and geography, and if it's done right, for the right reasons, then it will just propagate in its own accord.
There's so much existing. It takes me back to that, to put it inside a structure is the Grateful Dead again. There is a sense of time passed, but we're here. Time passes, and it was an adventure, And this is not, for me, this is not a great compliment, but it's true. It is the most American of bands. But it's not a song that doesn't have the word Texas or New Mexico. Really. It's geographically, there's many of their songs are, metaphorically placed somewhere. Indeed. Like I said,
But that brings its own charm and allure, I find. I mean, when I was a kid listening to songs that were mentioning places in America, that only heightened the escapism that I was having with those tunes, because they were talking about places I probably will never go to, or at least I felt that way, and places I knew nothing about, but they were talking about things that I felt incredibly relevant to where I was and who I was, and that had its own sort of magical mystery to it. I don't know.
Jerry Garcia he loved bluegrass music. Of course, is Appalachian, which of course is Anglo-Saxon, British. Really, they all sound like that. The songs all sound 1,000 years old. But yes, like the soundtrack of an Enrico Morricone Western. you know, it's now. And the music makes it now. I mean, those Western scores weren't music then. It's what that China place looks to us, or the composers, or to Enrico Morricone. How does he know what it was supposed to sound like? And it wasn't supposed to sound like a symphony, you know? But music is so deceptive. Someone was moaning about, with the increase of which you spoke of everything, with infinitudes of everything, music and songs have lost their prominence, or let's say their place at the front of the ship. Celine Dion sings up there. She sings while they're making love. Anyhow, you know what I mean.
Are you a fan of Dion then?
Oh, I think she's great. I think she's wonderful. I couldn't listen. I mean, yeah, I'd listen, but just watching her was hypnotic. I couldn't do it for more than 5 or 10 minutes.
You get overwhelmed.
She really does it. It's all other things.